Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin. Imagine yourself walking through a quiet forest where each step is cushioned by the soft carpet of fallen leaves, the earthy scent of moss filling the air. Above you the trees stand tall and silent, their trunks stretching toward the sky as if they are reaching for something far beyond what we can see. The wind, a gentle companion, whispers through the branches, creating a soft, melodic sound that is both calming and mysterious. Yet beneath this tranquil surface, beneath the forest floor where your feet rest, there exists a secret world. This world is hidden from most eyes, but is the lifeblood of the forest itself. It is a network so intricate, so vast, that it connects each tree to the others, forming a living, breathing entity. This world, full of whispers and quiet exchanges, exists beneath the soil, in the roots. Roots, you might think, are simply the anchor of a tree, a way for it to hold fast to the earth, drawing water and nutrients from the soil. However, roots are not just passive participants in the life of a tree. They play a far more dynamic and secret role, one that involves communication, cooperation, and even care for one another. It is here, beneath the surface of the earth, where a vast network that allows trees to talk to one another in a language we are only beginning to understand. The roots, it turns out, are not just for nourishment. They form a delicate and complex web of communication, and the trees are not solitary beings, but active participants in a grand collaborative dance. The key to this underground communication lies in something called mycorrhizal networks. These are networks of fungi that grow symbiotically with tree roots, creating a web that spans entire forests. Mycelium, the root-like structures of fungi, intertwines with the roots of trees, creating a vast subterranean network that mirrors the very branches that reach for the sky. This fungal network, which some scientists have dubbed the Wood Wide Web, acts as a messenger, allowing trees to exchange information with one another in ways that are as complex and subtle as anything that happens above the ground. Through these mycorrhizal connections, trees can send messages to each other, not through sounds, but through chemicals, a language that we can barely comprehend. The mycelium acts as a conduit, carrying these chemical signals from one tree to another, allowing them to communicate over vast distances, far beyond the reach of our senses. A tree in distress, perhaps under attack by insects, can send out a warning signal through the mycelial network, and this message will travel quickly to neighbouring trees, alerting them of the danger. Other trees may respond by producing chemicals that help defend against the attack, or even begin to prepare their own defences in anticipation. These chemical signals are like soft whispers shared between trees. They travel beneath the Earth's surface, carried through the mycelial network in the same way that sound moves through the air. Yet instead of words, it is the tree's chemical responses that carry the message. It is as if the forest, though outwardly quiet, is alive with voices, each tree speaking in its own way, reaching out to its neighbours, sending warnings or sharing knowledge. This communication is not immediate. It is subtle and takes time, as messages travel through the slow, winding paths of mycelium beneath the ground. The mycorrhizal networks are not simply a means of communication, however. They are a lifeline for the trees themselves. The fungi and the trees work together, sharing nutrients in a mutually beneficial arrangement. The tree provides sugars from photosynthesis to the fungus, while the fungus, in turn, helps the tree absorb water and essential minerals from the soil. This exchange, which benefits both organisms, creates a profound level of interdependence, a system in which one tree's health can influence the well-being of an entire forest. But the cooperation does not stop there. Some trees, especially older, larger ones, act as central hubs in these underground networks, providing resources to younger or weaker trees in times of need. When a tree is struggling, whether due to a lack of nutrients or a harsh environmental condition, it can rely on the mycorrhizal network to receive help. Nutrients from healthier, stronger trees travel through the fungal pathways to reach those in need, ensuring that the weaker members of the forest are not left to wither alone. The entire system operates like a finely tuned orchestra, with each tree playing its part in a greater symphony of life. The trees send their messages, help one another, share resources, and collaborate in ways that are so subtle and invisible that they remain mostly unnoticed. Yet the network is vital. Without it, the forest would not thrive. The trees, standing tall above the earth, are not independent entities, but interconnected beings, bound together by the underground web of life that sustains them. This underground communication also extends to the way trees sense their environment. Imagine that a tree, deeply rooted in the soil, can feel the changes in the earth long before they manifest above the surface. The mycorrhizal network allows trees to detect environmental shifts, such as changes in moisture or temperature, and to prepare accordingly. For example, when a tree senses that water is becoming scarce, it may begin to alter its behavior, reducing its water consumption and signaling its neighbors to do the same. Through this underground network, the forest as a whole can respond to changes in the environment in a coordinated and efficient manner, ensuring that all members of the community are prepared for what lies ahead. And it is not just in times of distress that the trees communicate. The mycorrhizal networks are also used to share the joy of life, to celebrate moments of growth and renewal. As trees grow taller, they send out signals of health and strength, which are shared with their neighbors. These signals remind the trees that they are part of something much larger, something greater than themselves. The health of one tree is the health of the entire forest, and when one tree flourishes, it is a sign that the community is thriving. In this silent, unseen world beneath our feet, the trees are not isolated beings. They are not solitary giants standing alone in the forest. Instead, they are members of a vast, interconnected community, where every message sent and every nutrient shared strengthens the whole. The forest is a living entity, one that breathes, grows, and adapts together. And though we cannot hear the whispers of the roots, they are there, quietly working, keeping the forest alive and thriving. Each tree is a part of this silent conversation, each root a thread in the grand tapestry of life. As you stand in the quiet embrace of the forest, feeling the cool earth beneath your feet, you may not be able to hear the soft, whispered messages of the trees, but they are there, beneath the surface, carrying their stories through the mycelial network. And in the quiet stillness of the forest, as the wind rustles the leaves and the sunlight filters through the branches, there is a deep sense of connection, a reminder that we are all part of something greater, something that has been thriving for millennia. The trees are talking and they are listening, sharing their wisdom and their strength in ways that we are only beginning to understand. Let us drift deeper into the world beneath the forest floor, where the trees converse in soft, almost imperceptible ways. In this hidden realm, the air is thick with the scent of rich earth, and the sound of life pulses beneath the surface. You might think of the forest as a quiet place, but beneath the ground there is constant movement, a steady hum of communication. The trees are not standing still. They are part of a living system that stretches far beyond what we can see with our eyes. They speak to one another not with words, but with the exchange of life-sustaining chemicals carried on the threads of fungi that interlace through the roots. These mycorrhizal networks are the unseen highways of the forest, carrying messages that shape the destiny of the trees and the forest as a whole. Picture this. A tree stands alone in the middle of the forest, its roots deep in the soil, absorbing the minerals and water it needs to survive. But as it does, its roots send out chemical signals, soft messages that travel through the earth. These signals are not random. They carry information. A tree may send a signal to another nearby tree, telling it that there is enough sunlight to go around. Perhaps the air is warm, and the soil is rich with moisture, a sign that the season is changing. And, like a soft whisper between old friends, the message is understood. In return, the other tree might send back a signal, offering a small share of the nutrients it has gathered, ensuring that the two trees, though standing apart, can share in the abundance of the land. These signals are more than mere whispers. They are lifelines, essential for the survival of the entire forest. Imagine the intricacy of this communication, the subtle exchange that sustains life in the forest. When a tree is attacked by the insects or suffers from disease, it may send out a warning. The chemical signals it releases travel through the mycelial network, like a wave of energy, reaching distant trees. A few days later, other trees may begin to produce chemicals that act as natural defenses, preparing themselves for the threat. The forest, it seems, has a collective memory, a way of remembering threats that might harm its inhabitants. And through this shared knowledge, each tree, even those not immediately affected by the danger, can take precautionary measures. This ability to warn one another, to share knowledge of danger and defense, shows the depth of connection between the trees. It suggests that the forest is not merely a collection of individuals, but a living, breathing entity that reacts as a whole. The mycorrhizal network is the neural network of the forest, constantly monitoring its health and alerting its members to changes that may affect their well-being. In a sense, the trees are not only protecting themselves but also each other, ensuring that when one suffers, the entire forest is prepared to respond. The shared effort is a testament to the strength of unity, the power of collective action. Every tree in the forest, from the smallest sapling to the tallest giant, plays a part in keeping the ecosystem balanced and alive. Yet the communication is not only about survival, it is also about growth and renewal. A tree that is healthy can send out more than just warnings, it can offer support. A large, mature tree, one that has lived for many decades, may become a provider for younger, weaker trees nearby. These older trees, rooted deeply in the earth, have access to nutrients and water that the younger trees may not yet be able to reach. Through the mycorrhizal networks, these older trees can share resources, sending nutrients and sugars to the smaller, struggling trees, helping them grow and survive. In this way, the forest is a family, each tree looking out for the others, ensuring that every member has what it needs to thrive. The cooperation that exists among trees is not limited to just survival or resource sharing. It extends to relationships built on care and protection. Some trees, like the mighty oaks or the sturdy pines, play the role of guardians. They provide shade to smaller trees, sheltering them from the harsh midday sun. They help buffer the younger trees from strong winds, offering a safe haven for them to grow without the threat of being uprooted. The canopy formed by these older trees creates a protective umbrella for the forest floor, offering a cooler, more stable environment for seedlings to take root. It is a beautiful paradox, the oldest, most established trees offering their wisdom and protection to those just beginning their journey. This mutual care extends to the very soil beneath the trees. The forest floor is a dynamic place, alive with the exchange of nutrients, microorganisms, and life forms. The roots of trees, interwoven through the earth, work together to enrich the soil, ensuring that it remains fertile for future generations. The fallen leaves, the decaying wood, and the fungi that thrive on the forest floor all contribute to a cycle of growth and renewal. Trees not only share their nutrients but also their wisdom, passed down from one generation to the next. And as each tree grows older, it continues to give back, adding to the strength and vitality of the entire forest. When you stand in the middle of a forest, the silence around you may seem profound. But if you could listen closely, if you could tune into the subtle hum of the earth, you would hear the forest speaking. You would feel the exchange of energy and life moving beneath your feet, beneath the soil. The forest, with all its trees, is a community bound together by invisible threads of communication, cooperation, and care. The trees do not stand alone. They stand as part of something much larger, something that stretches across time and space. Their roots, buried deep in the earth, are the silent connectors, the unseen messengers that ensure the survival of the forest as a whole. In this world, no tree stands alone, and every tree is part of a grand living conversation that has been taking place for millions of years. As we now approach the final chapter of this journey beneath the forest floor, it's time to reflect on the deeper meaning of the silent conversations that take place among the trees. The forest is not just a collection of living organisms, it is a complex living system where each individual tree is connected to a larger network, an intricate web of life that sustains the entire ecosystem. Each tree, whether towering tall and ancient or small and young, plays a vital role in the community. Through their roots, they share resources, warn of dangers, and help one another in times of need. This collaborative existence forms the very foundation of the forest, one that has existed for countless generations and will continue to thrive as long as the trees are able to communicate and support each other. There is something deeply humbling about the way the trees work together. In their quiet, unspoken way, they remind us that no being is truly isolated, no matter how independent it may seem. The trees may stand alone in their physical presence, but beneath the surface they are part of a much larger system. A system where cooperation, support, and mutual care are paramount to survival. The forest, through the mycorrhizal network, offers a powerful lesson in interconnectedness. It shows us that every action, no matter how small, has an impact on the whole. A single tree standing tall and proud may seem like an individual, but beneath the earth, it is bound to its neighbours, sharing in the joys and struggles of life together. This sense of interconnectedness extends beyond the forest itself. The trees, through their ability to communicate, are the guardians of the environment. They help regulate the climate, provide shelter for countless species, and contribute to the very air we breathe. The forest is not just a passive entity, but a living, breathing organism that helps sustain life on this planet. Through their quiet conversations, the trees are constantly working to ensure that the ecosystem remains in balance, that resources are shared, and that the forest as a whole remains resilient, no matter the challenges it faces. As we step back and leave the forest behind, the lessons we have learned remain with us. The trees have shown us the importance of community, of looking out for one another, and of working together for the greater good. Their underground conversations remind us that life is not about individual success, but about how we are all connected, how every action, every choice we make ripples out to affect the larger whole. In the world of trees, there is no room for selfishness or isolation. There is only cooperation, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to survival. Perhaps, in the end, the most profound lesson the trees have to offer is one of patience. The forest does not grow overnight. It takes time for the trees to form their connections, to build their networks, and to learn how to communicate with one another. Just as the trees slowly reach for the sky, their roots also slowly grow deeper, expanding their reach, connecting with other trees, and creating a network that sustains the entire ecosystem. The forest reminds us that life too takes time, that growth is a slow, deliberate process that requires patience, understanding, and a deep respect for the world around us. And so, as we walk away from the forest, we carry with us the quiet strength of the trees, their whispered conversations forever etched in our hearts. The next time you find yourself standing in a forest, take a moment to pause and listen. You may not hear the trees speaking, but know that beneath your feet, in the cool, dark earth, they are talking to one another, sending messages of life, of care, and of connection. The forest is always alive, always communicating, and always waiting to share its wisdom with those who are willing to listen. Imagine walking through the forest as the morning light filters softly through the trees. The air is crisp, and the scent of pine and earth fills your senses. Birds chirp faintly in the distance, and the rustling of leaves creates a calming soundtrack, a quiet symphony that accompanies your every step. You may think of the trees around you as silent sentinels, standing tall and still as they have for centuries, but in reality, they are anything but silent. They too are part of a complex, living conversation that happens above the ground. Through the air, Across vast distances, the trees share messages with one another, not with words, but with the gentle flow of chemicals carried by the wind. Trees are often thought of as solitary beings, each one standing alone, rooted to the earth in isolation. Yet in reality, they are part of a larger network, constantly communicating with each other. This communication happens in many forms, but one of the most fascinating and subtle ways trees speak to one another is through the air itself. Every leaf, every branch, and every tree contributes to a complex, aerial symphony of messages, all carried by the wind, unnoticed by most. These messages, though invisible, are vital to the survival of the forest. They guide the growth of the trees, help them respond to changes in the environment, and allow them to cooperate in ways that are vital to the entire ecosystem. The forest is a living organism in constant motion. It may seem still to our eyes, but the trees are not merely waiting in place, passive and unmoving. Instead, they are in constant communication with one another, sharing vital information through the movement of air, in the subtle flow of chemicals that rise from the forest floor and travel through the canopy. The air is their medium, their channel for sending signals to one another. And just as the wind moves through the branches, so too do the messages, carrying information about the environment and the state of the trees themselves. This communication is not one way. The trees do not merely send messages into the air, they receive messages as well. In fact, the air acts as a two-way channel for the trees to interact with one another. One of the most interesting aspects of this airborne communication is how trees can sense each other's needs, responding to one another's needs as if they were all part of the same family, connected by the very air they breathe. In many ways, the air becomes a messenger for the forest. It carries the stories of the trees, telling tales of danger, growth, and change. When a tree is under attack, for example, it may release a burst of chemicals that signal to other trees nearby. These trees in turn may begin to produce chemicals that deter herbivores, like the tannins in oak leaves or the bitter oils in pine needles. These airborne signals, though invisible to us, are part of a larger, complex system of communication that shapes the forest. The air is filled with messages that guide the trees, informing them of threats, of seasonal changes, and of the overall health of the forest. But this communication is not just about survival, it is also about cooperation. Trees work together to ensure the health and longevity of the forest. Through the movement of chemicals in the air, they can communicate their needs and help one another in times of crisis. For instance, when the forest faces a drought, the trees may release chemicals that cause neighbouring trees to conserve water or slow their growth, ensuring that there are enough resources for everyone. These subtle, airborne messages create a sense of unity among the trees, a shared responsibility for the well-being of the entire forest. It is as if the trees, standing together, are saying, "We are in this together, and together we will survive." The messages that travel through the air are not just about immediate survival, but also about long-term health and growth. When a tree is thriving, it can send out positive signals to the surrounding trees, telling them that the conditions are right for growth, that the soil is rich and the sunlight is abundant. These messages help to guide the growth of young trees and saplings, ensuring that they grow in the right direction, seeking out the best possible conditions for their survival. The forest, through these messages, is able to grow in a coordinated, harmonious way. Every tree knows its place in the ecosystem, and the communication that takes place in the air helps ensure that the entire community flourishes. This airborne communication also extends to the timing of the forest's cycles. Trees use the air to signal the changing seasons, to communicate the arrival of spring, summer, and fall. As the trees sense the changes in the air, they adjust their growth accordingly. In the spring, when the air is rich with moisture and warmth, the trees respond by sending out new shoots and leaves. In the fall, when the air becomes cooler and drier, the trees prepare for winter, shedding their leaves and slowing their growth. These seasonal signals are part of the forest's rhythm, a delicate dance that has been happening for millions of years. But the forest is not just a passive recipient of these messages. The trees also shape the air around them, influencing the environment in ways that affect not only themselves, but also the other creatures that share their world. As trees release chemicals into the air, they can affect the behavior of insects, animals, and even the weather. For instance, trees can release chemicals that encourage pollinators to visit, or that deter herbivores from feeding on their leaves. The very air we breathe is influenced by the trees, and in return the trees use the air to send out messages that help them thrive. The beauty of this airborne communication is that it is invisible, subtle, and often unnoticed by human eyes. We may walk through the forest marvelling at the beauty of the trees, but we rarely stop to consider the quiet symphony that is taking place around us. Every gust of wind, every shift in the air is part of a larger, unseen conversation. The trees are speaking to each other, telling stories of survival, growth, and change, all carried on the invisible currents of the air. As we move deeper into the quiet symphony of the forest, it becomes clear that the trees' communication through the air is not just about survival. It is about understanding, adaptation, and harmony within the ecosystem. The trees, through their subtle signals, form a network of interdependence that sustains the entire forest. When the forest is healthy, each tree thrives individually, yet their thriving is not an isolated event. It is part of a grand, interconnected whole. Each tree's success is the success of the forest, and each tree's struggle is felt by the others. This is the beauty of the forest's communication system. It is a system that is constantly evolving, constantly adjusting to ensure that every tree, no matter its size, age, or health, plays a vital role in the life of the community. The key to understanding this interconnectedness lies in the way trees communicate during times of change. Consider the seasons. As they shift, so too do the messages the trees send to one another. During spring, when the air is rich with moisture and warmth, the trees are in a state of renewal. New shoots sprout from the branches, and the forest is alive with the promise of growth. The trees, sensing the changing conditions in the air, respond by opening their leaves to capture the sunlight, by pushing roots deeper into the soil to absorb the nutrients they need to support new growth. It is a time of expansion, of possibility, and the trees communicate this renewal to one another through the chemicals they release into the air. But it is not only the trees that are affected by these seasonal changes. The animals, the insects, and the very soil itself are all influenced by the shifting conditions. In the spring, the air is filled with the scent of blooming flowers, the sound of insects buzzing, and the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. As the trees communicate their growth, they also create an environment for the forest's other inhabitants to thrive. Birds return to their nests, squirrels gather acorns, and insects hatch from their eggs. The forest, as a living entity, has its own rhythm, its own cycle, and the trees are the conductors of this natural orchestra. As the seasons progress, the messages in the air shift. In the summer, when the sun is high and the days are long, the trees are in full bloom. They have reached the peak of their growth and the air is filled with the energy of life. But even then, the trees continue to communicate, adjusting to the changing light and temperature. When the air becomes too hot or too dry, the trees begin to adjust their behavior. They release chemicals that slow down their growth, conserving resources for the more challenging months ahead. These adjustments are subtle, almost imperceptible, yet they are essential for the survival of the forest. The tree's ability to sense the environment and respond through the air is what allows them to endure through changing times, to weather the storms and survive the droughts. But it is in the fall, when the air becomes cooler and drier, that the true beauty of the tree's communication becomes apparent. As the temperature drops and the light wanes, the trees begin to prepare for the winter ahead. They shed their leaves, slowing their metabolic processes and conserving their energy. But even as the trees retreat into a state of dormancy, the communication does not stop. The trees continue to send out signals, informing one another of the coming changes, preparing for the harsh winter months. These signals are carried by the cool, crisp air, reminding the forest that it must rest, that it must recharge, so that when the spring comes again, it will be ready to begin the cycle anew. The beauty of this seasonal communication is that it is a shared experience. The trees, through their ability to sense the environment and adjust their behavior, are not just reacting to the changes in the air, they are participating in a larger process, one that connects them to the rhythm of the earth itself. The air, the wind, and the seasons are not just external forces, they are part of a larger, cyclical conversation that the trees have with the world around them. The trees do not simply exist within the forest. They are a part of the forest, and their ability to communicate through the air is what allows them to thrive within it. As you stand in the midst of the forest, surrounded by towering trees, you may not be able to see the messages that travel through the air. You may not hear the chemicals that are released, or sense the signals that are exchanged. But rest assured, the trees are talking. They are sharing the secrets of the forest, the rhythms of the seasons, and the knowledge of the earth itself. They are not alone in their communication. They are part of a much larger interconnected system, one that has been in place for millions of years. And through this communication, the trees ensure the survival of their community, the health of their ecosystem, and the balance of life within the forest. As the conversation of the trees unfolds, we realize that the forest is not just a collection of individuals, but a vast harmonious community, each tree contributing to the greater whole. It is in this symphony of chemical signals carried by the wind and drifting through the air that the forest thrives. Each tree, though rooted to the ground, is an active participant in the life of the forest. Every gust of wind, every shift in the atmosphere carries messages between the trees, ensuring that the forest remains resilient, connected, and capable of facing the ever-changing challenges of the natural world. This delicate communication system is more than just a survival mechanism. It is a testament to the deep interdependence that exists within nature. As we witness the rhythm of the seasons, the ebb and flow of life in the forest, we come to understand that the tree's ability to communicate through the air is part of a larger pattern of growth and renewal. Through this silent exchange, the forest is able to adapt, respond, and evolve in ways that we, as humans, often overlook. The trees are not simply reacting to their environment, they are co-creating it, shaping the air and the atmosphere around them with every breath they take. In the final days of fall, as the forest prepares for the winter ahead, the air is filled with a sense of stillness. The trees, having communicated their readiness for rest, enter a state of dormancy. Yet even in this quiet time the forest continues to pulse with life. The trees, though seemingly asleep, are still connected through the air, exchanging small, subtle signals that will prepare them for the next cycle. The wind, gentle and soft, carries the messages of the forest, a reminder that though the trees may rest, they are never truly disconnected from the world around them. The air continues to flow, and with it, the quiet song of the trees plays on. It is during these moments of stillness that we too can find a sense of peace. The forest, with its constant communication and adaptation, teaches us about the power of connection. It reminds us that we, like the trees, are part of something much larger than ourselves. Just as the trees communicate with each other, sharing information about their needs and the changing seasons, we too can benefit from being more aware of the connections that bind us to one another and to the world around us. The trees offer us a lesson in listening, in tuning in to the subtle signals that guide us, that remind us of the importance of cooperation, patience, and adaptability. And so as we leave the forest, we carry with us the quiet knowledge that the trees are always speaking. They are always sharing their wisdom, their experiences, and their connection to the world around them. Through the air, through the subtle flow of chemicals, they send their messages, not just to one another, but to all who are willing to listen. The next time you stand in the presence of a forest, take a moment to breathe deeply, to close your eyes and to listen. The forest is speaking to you just as it speaks to the trees. The quiet symphony of the forest continues, carried on the wind, through the air, and into the heart of all who are open to hearing it. Imagine stepping into a forest at the break of dawn. The world is quiet, still, and the soft golden light of morning filters through the branches, casting long shadows on the forest floor. The leaves on the trees shimmer in the first rays of sunlight, their surfaces wet with dew, their edges trembling slightly in the gentle breeze. It's easy to think of the leaves as simple adornments, beautiful but insignificant. We often overlook the true significance of these leaves, assuming they are there simply to catch the sunlight for photosynthesis or to create the vibrant colours of autumn. But the leaves are more than just passive green surfaces. They are the voice of the tree, a communication channel through which the tree shares its state with the environment and the other members of the forest. The leaves, though silent to our ears, speak a language all their own. In the delicate patterns of veins that run through their surfaces, in the way they bend and move in the wind, the tree tells a story of its health, its needs, and its response to the world around it. These leaves, unlike what we often perceive, are not merely functioning as solar collectors. They are also sensors, constantly sending out signals into the environment. They are in constant communication with the world around them, responding to the changes in light, temperature, humidity, and even the presence of other trees. The way the leaves react to these environmental cues is an essential part of the tree's survival strategy. Each leaf is finely attuned to its surroundings, absorbing information about the weather, the soil, and even the presence of pests. A tree's leaves can tell whether it is facing a drought, whether it is getting enough sunlight, or if it needs more nutrients. Through the stomata, the tiny pores on the surface of the leaves, trees take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen, but they also exhale more than just gases. They release volatile organic compounds, VOCs, chemicals that serve as signals to other trees. These VOCs can act as messages, alerting other trees of potential dangers or changes in the environment. When a tree is under stress, whether from a lack of water, an insect attack, or extreme temperatures, its leaves will respond by releasing specific chemicals that signal distress. These chemicals, like soft cries for help, are carried by the air and can travel to neighbouring trees. Upon receiving this signal, the surrounding trees may respond in a variety of ways. Some trees may begin producing protective chemicals to ward off the pests that are threatening the stressed tree, while others might conserve water to ensure that there are enough resources for all the trees in the area. This is a form of collective response. One tree in its moment of vulnerability sends a message and the rest of the forest listens, adjusting to the needs of the whole. The messages sent by the leaves are not limited to distress signals. They also carry information about the tree's health and vitality. A thriving tree bathed in sunlight will send out signals of growth and strength. The colours of the leaves may shift in response to the time of year, but they also reflect the overall state of the tree. A tree that is healthy will have rich, green leaves, full of chlorophyll, which allows it to make the most of the sunlight and thrive. But a tree in poor health will exhibit pale or yellowing leaves, signs that it may be struggling with insufficient nutrients, drought, or other challenges. The leaves, in their changing hues and varying textures, reveal the silent state of the tree's life, telling a story of both struggle and strength. What is particularly fascinating is how this language of leaves extends beyond individual trees. The entire forest communicates through these chemical signals. Trees are not merely isolated in their struggles or successes. Instead, they are part of a larger community, a network where each tree is aware of the other's needs and conditions. The leaves of a single tree can send out information that impacts the entire forest. The forest, in essence, is a living organism, where the trees share not only their resources, but also their collective knowledge. It's as if the trees are speaking to each other, saying, "This is what we are experiencing, and together we will adapt." The role of the leaves in this communication system is not just one of survival, but also of coordination. In a forest, trees must cooperate to ensure that resources, such as sunlight, water, and nutrients, are used efficiently. The leaves play a central role in this by helping to regulate the forest's microclimate. When the leaves of the trees release moisture through transpiration, they help to cool the air and create a humid environment that benefits the surrounding plants and animals. In this way, the leaves contribute to a system of mutual support and environmental balance, working together with the soil, the air, and the water to maintain the health of the entire ecosystem. As you walk deeper into the forest, you may not hear the leaves speaking, but you can feel their presence. The very air around you is filled with the whispers of the trees, not through sound, but through the subtle changes in the environment, the chemicals in the air, and the shifting patterns of the leaves themselves. The trees, with their ever-changing leaves, are telling a story of life, of connection, and of resilience. The forest is alive with their silent conversations, and each leaf with its tiny, delicate movements plays a part in this grand, timeless dialogue. The language of the leaves is not just a series of random messages, but a finely tuned system that holds the forest together, fostering cooperation and resilience among trees. As the trees converse through the chemicals they release into the air, the forest itself begins to take on a personality, one that is defined by its community of trees. Each tree, with its leaves and the signals they send, plays a role in the larger system. The conversation isn't just about survival, it's about thriving together. This communication network, though invisible to our eyes, is the heartbeat of the forest, allowing the trees to share knowledge, warnings, and resources in a constant cycle of exchange. When a tree feels the touch of a drought, its leaves respond with subtle changes. They might begin to curl, conserving moisture, or slow down the rate at which they release water into the air. But this response does not go unnoticed. The tree's neighbours are attuned to the shifts in the air, the delicate balance of humidity, and the scent of chemicals carried by the breeze. The tree, in its moment of struggle, sends out a plea. Its leaves release volatile organic compounds, VOCs, into the air, signalling the nearby trees to adjust. In response, some trees might release protective chemicals such as tannins that can help to deter herbivores or reduce water loss. Others may reduce their own growth, ensuring that resources are shared evenly among the forest. The trees, in their collective wisdom, respond as a community, taking action together to mitigate the effects of the drought. This subtle exchange through the leaves is a form of foresight. Trees, through their leaf-based signals, are not just reacting to immediate threats, but are preparing for future challenges. When a tree faces a pest infestation, its leaves might release chemicals that act as a deterrent to insects, or they might signal nearby trees to do the same. In this way, the forest reacts to threats before they even become widespread. The air becomes a channel for the forest's collective memory, passing on knowledge of past events to ensure future survival. This foresight is not just instinctual, it is the result of millions of years of communication, a language that has evolved to protect the trees and the forest as a whole. What is remarkable about this system is how it fosters cooperation rather than competition. While trees might compete for sunlight, nutrients, or space, their communication through the leaves encourages a spirit of mutual aid. When one tree is in trouble, the whole forest feels it. It's as though the trees understand that their survival is intertwined, that the health of the individual is inseparable from the health of the collective. This interconnectedness, this web of support, allows the forest to thrive in even the harshest conditions. In times of drought, pest invasions, or extreme temperatures, the trees work together, communicating through their leaves and ensuring that the entire ecosystem remains strong. The leaves also serve as a bridge between the trees and the other organisms within the forest. As trees communicate with each other, they are also interacting with the wider ecosystem. The VOCs released by the leaves can attract pollinators, guide birds to their nests, or even influence the behavior of herbivores. The messages that pass through the leaves don't just affect the trees themselves, they ripple out to touch every part of the forest. In this way, the trees are not just part of the forest, they are its creators and maintainers, shaping the environment around them. They communicate not only with one another, but also with the creatures that live among them, creating a network that supports all life in the forest. Imagine the leaves as storytellers, each one telling a different part of the story of the forest. The stories are not told in words, but in the way the leaves respond to the light, the air, and the changes around them. The way a leaf turns yellow in the fall, or the way it bends in the wind, is a silent but eloquent narrative of life in the forest. These stories are passed from tree to tree, from generation to generation, creating a continuous thread of knowledge that binds the forest together. The leaves are not just passive witnesses to the passage of time, they are active participants in the forest's ongoing tale. Through the language of the leaves, we begin to understand that the forest is not a random collection of trees, but a living, breathing entity, a community of beings, each contributing to the larger whole. The leaves, in their quiet, unassuming way, are the voices of the forest, speaking of life, of change, and of the deep interconnectedness that sustains it. They tell stories of survival and growth, of cooperation and resilience. As you stand beneath the canopy, listening to the soft rustling of the leaves, you begin to realize that you are not merely walking through the forest, you are part of its story. You are connected to the trees, to the leaves, and to the very heart of the forest, where the language of life is spoken softly and continuously. The communication of the leaves goes beyond survival and adaptation. It is a testament to the wisdom and resilience of nature itself. As we stand beneath the branches, we begin to appreciate the profound depth of the stories the leaves tell. With each new season, the trees shift their conversations, adjusting to the subtle changes in the air, the shifting winds, the patterns of rainfall, and the quiet hum of the forest. The leaves, though seemingly fragile, are part of a grand design that has evolved over millennia. Their role in this design is to connect, to communicate, and to contribute to the survival of the forest as a whole. Every leaf, every branch, and every signal released into the air serves a greater purpose. They are not just part of the tree, they are the voice of the forest, a living, breathing testament to the interconnectedness of all things. As the seasons change, the messages in the air shift as well. The leaves that were once vibrant green with the energy of summer now begin to transform in the cooler days of fall. The transformation is not only physical but also symbolic. As the chlorophyll fades and the brilliant reds, oranges, and yellows emerge, the trees are preparing for the winter ahead. This shift in colour, while beautiful to our eyes, is also a message, a sign that the tree is adjusting, conserving energy, and preparing for the cold months ahead. The change is not abrupt but gradual, a slow conversation between the tree and the environment. The tree, sensing the drop in temperature, responds by slowing down, preparing for rest. And in this rest, it communicates a quiet strength, a resilience that will carry it through until spring. Yet, even in their dormancy, the trees continue to speak. The leaves, now fallen to the forest floor, are still engaged in the conversation. As they decompose, they release nutrients back into the soil, creating a rich environment for new growth. The cycle of life continues, not in the bustle of activity, but in the quiet work of renewal. The fallen leaves nourish the roots of the trees, and in turn, the roots will nourish the new leaves that will sprout in the spring. This cycle, this rhythm, is at the heart of the forest conversation. It is a dance of give and take, a testament to the enduring strength of the forest and its capacity to renew itself. The beauty of this communication lies in its subtlety. We may not hear the leaves speaking in the traditional sense, but if we tune in, if we listen closely, we begin to understand that their language is one of patience, of growth, of quiet adaptation. The trees are not frantic in their communication. They do not rush or force the messages to be heard. Instead, they wait for the right moment, sending their signals with the wind, sharing their stories in a language that is as old as time itself. Their messages are not urgent. They are calm and measured, in tune with the natural rhythms of the world. The forest does not shout to be heard. It whispers with the gentle rustling of leaves, with the soft release of chemicals into the air, with the slow movement of branches in the wind. This slow, steady communication is a reminder that not all messages need to be loud or urgent to be important. The trees teach us that communication at its core is about understanding and connection. It is about sharing knowledge, passing wisdom, and responding to the needs of those around us. The leaves, in their subtle messages, remind us that we do not need to shout to be understood. The quiet whispers, the soft signals, the gentle exchanges, these are the things that sustain the forest. And in turn, they sustain us. As we learn to listen to the forest, to the language of the leaves, we begin to recognize the power of patience, of stillness, and of quiet connection. In the end, the language of the leaves is the language of life itself. It is a language that speaks of resilience, of cooperation, and of the deep interconnectedness that binds all things together. The forest is not a solitary place, it is a community. One where every leaf, every branch, and every tree plays a part in the greater whole. The trees, through their leaves, tell stories of survival, of adaptation, and of hope. These stories are not just for the trees, they are for us as well. As we stand in the presence of these ancient beings, we are reminded of the delicate balance of life, and of the quiet, enduring conversations that sustain it. The forest is a place of timeless wisdom. In the stillness of its towering trees and the gentle whisper of the leaves, there is a sense of something ancient, something that has endured far beyond the reach of human understanding. The trees, with their thick trunks and sprawling roots, seem to stand as silent witnesses to the passage of time. But what if I told you that the trees are not only witnesses, they are keepers of memory? They remember the forest's past, the cycles of seasons, the changes in the environment, and even the events that shape their very existence. Beneath the surface of the soil, in the roots that intertwine and spread, and in the very structure of the tree itself, there lies a memory, a living, breathing archive of the forest's history. Each tree in the forest carries within it the memory of its origins, the time it began as a seedling, and the countless experiences it has had since then. The rings inside a tree's trunk, for example, are not just markers of age. They are records, imprinted with the conditions of each year. Each ring tells a story of a particularly wet year, a drought, a fire, or a period of rapid growth. The tree itself is a living record of the past, storing memories of the seasons that came before and responding to the world around it in ways that reflect its experiences. These rings are like chapters in a book, each one documenting the challenges and triumphs that the tree has faced throughout its life. But the memory of the forest is not confined to the individual tree. The trees, through their interconnected root system, share memories, passing down knowledge of the environment to one another. Through the mycorrhizal networks beneath the soil, trees can send messages about past conditions, warning others of dangers or sharing information about resources. In this way, the forest as a whole is not just a random collection of trees, it is a community of beings, each one carrying the collective memory of the land. The forest itself has a memory, one that is shared among the trees and passed on from generation to generation. What is particularly fascinating about the memory of trees is how they use this information to adapt and survive. When a tree faces a threat, whether from pests, disease, or a changing climate, it can draw on its memory to respond in the most effective way. A tree that has experienced a drought, for example, will have learned to conserve water more efficiently, slowing its growth and reducing its water consumption. This memory is not only stored in the tree's rings, but also in the chemical processes that happen within it. The tree remembers how to react to environmental stress, using its past experiences to inform its present behavior. The memory of trees goes beyond individual survival. It extends to the entire ecosystem. The forest itself has a collective memory that shapes its future. When a tree releases chemicals into the air to warn of an insect attack, it is sharing its memory of past threats, allowing other trees to prepare and respond accordingly. Similarly, the trees share knowledge of soil conditions, sunlight availability, and seasonal changes. This collective memory is what allows the forest to adapt to changing environments, ensuring that it continues to thrive even as conditions fluctuate. The forest is not static, it's constantly learning, growing, and adapting based on the memories passed down through the generations. But memory in the forest is not just about survival, it is also about continuity. The forest holds the memories of the generations that came before it. The fallen leaves that decompose on the forest floor enrich the soil, providing nutrients for the new trees that take root. The trees that die and decompose return to the earth, their energy passing into the next generation. The forest's memory is cyclical, a never-ending loop of life and death, growth and decay, where each tree contributes to the future of the forest even after it has passed. There is a quiet beauty in this memory, a reminder that the forest is more than just a place of trees. It is a living archive, a testament to the passage of time. The trees carry the stories of the land, the seasons, and the changes that have shaped the environment. In their rings, their roots, and their chemical signals, the trees preserve the history of the forest, passing down knowledge to the next generation. The memory of the forest is not static. It is a living, breathing force that continues to evolve, adapt, and grow. As you walk through the forest, you may not be able to hear the stories the trees tell, but they are there, in the subtle rustling of the leaves, in the scent of the earth, and in the quiet hum of life that surrounds you. The forest holds its memories close, and through them it continues to thrive. The trees may not speak in words, but through their rings, their roots, and their leaves, they communicate the history of the forest, a history that is still being written, one season at a time. As we venture deeper into the realm of the forest's memory, we begin to see that the tree's recollections are not mere snapshots of past events, but continuous stories that unfold and adapt over time. The way a tree remembers a past drought, or how it reacts to a change in the soil, is a process of accumulation. It is not one event that shapes the tree's behavior, but rather a collection of experiences layered upon one another. Each season builds upon the last, each tree adding its voice to the ongoing conversation that defines the forest. The memories of the trees are not just stored in isolation, they are shared through the network of roots and the intricate mycorrhizal networks beneath the surface. This collective memory is what allows the forest to survive, to adapt, and to remain resilient in the face of change. The forest's memory is not static, and neither is the way trees interact with the environment. As trees respond to past events, they adjust their behavior based on what they have learned. A tree that has survived a harsh winter or a particularly dry summer will carry that knowledge with it into the next season. This is not just an individual survival mechanism, but a shared one. When a tree reacts to its environment, it is not just responding to its own needs. It is communicating that response to the surrounding trees. Through the release of volatile organic compounds, VOCs, and other chemical signals, the tree sends out messages that alert the rest of the forest to potential changes. The forest, in turn, reacts as a whole, preparing for the changes that lie ahead. This shared memory system is not limited to immediate threats. The forest's memory also includes its historical experiences. It remembers the last major fire, the storms that once ravaged its canopy, and the times of abundance when the trees grew tall and the soil was rich with nutrients. The forest, through its vast network of interconnected trees, is able to store these experiences and use them to guide future behavior. The trees are not simply reacting to the present, they are preparing for the future based on the lessons they have learned from the past. This ability to use memory to guide future action is one of the forest's greatest strengths. It allows the forest to evolve, to adapt to new conditions, and to thrive in a changing world. Perhaps one of the most remarkable aspects of the forest's memory is how it influences the survival of the forest as a whole. The collective knowledge shared between trees creates a system of cooperation that goes beyond individual survival. In a forest, the health of one tree is directly linked to the health of the whole. When a tree remembers the conditions of a past drought and adjusts its behavior accordingly, it does so not just for itself, but for the benefit of its neighbors. The forest works as a unit, each tree contributing to the well-being of the community. This interconnectedness, this shared memory, is the key to the forest's resilience. It is what allows the forest to weather storms, to survive fires, and to thrive in environments that would otherwise seem inhospitable. The idea of collective memory is not limited to the trees themselves. The forest as a whole is an organism that responds to its environment based on the memories it has accumulated over generations. The soil, the air, the water, all of these elements are shaped by the experiences of the forest, passed down through time. The trees, through their roots and leaves, contribute to the memory of the land, leaving an imprint on the environment that lasts long after they have passed. When one tree dies, its nutrients return to the soil, enriching it for the next generation. The memory of that tree lives on in the earth, nourishing the seeds of future trees. The forest, in a sense, never truly forgets. It carries the memories of every tree, every leaf, and every season within it, ensuring that the forest will continue to grow, evolve, and adapt. As we reflect on the memory of the forest, we realize that this memory is not just a passive record of the past. It is an active force, shaping the present and guiding the future. The trees do not simply store memories as a means of preserving history. They use those memories to inform their decisions, to adapt to their environment, and to communicate with one another. The forest, with its vast interconnected web of trees, is a living testament to the power of memory and the importance of shared knowledge. It is a reminder that in the natural world, memory is not just about the past. It is about the future, about survival, and about the ongoing conversation that shapes the forest for generations to come. The memory of the forest is a quiet one, not spoken aloud but shared through the leaves, the roots, and the air. It is a memory that lives in the very heart of the trees, in the rings of their trunks, in the signals they send to each other. It is a memory that connects the trees to one another, to the soil, and to the world around them. And it is this memory that ensures the survival and growth of the forest, a living, breathing archive of the past, present, and future. As we come to the end of this journey through the memory of the forest, we are left with a profound understanding of how deeply intertwined trees are with the land they inhabit. The forest is not just a place of life, but a living repository of history. Each tree, with its roots deep in the soil and its branches reaching for the sky, carries within it the memories of the past, memories that are shared and preserved through the intricate network of roots, leaves, and chemical signals. These memories, while invisible to us, shape the forest in ways that are both subtle and profound. The forest's ability to recall its history allows it to adapt to the present and prepare for the future, creating a living, dynamic ecosystem that continues to thrive across generations. What is truly remarkable about the memory of the forest is how it operates as a collective. Trees, though individual organisms, are part of a greater whole. Their memories are not isolated, but shared through the mycorrhizal networks beneath the soil, allowing the forest to function as a cohesive unit. This system of shared knowledge helps the forest adapt to changes in the environment. When one tree experiences a drought, for example, it signals to its neighbours, warning them of the coming hardship and ensuring that the entire community can respond. The trees do not only rely on their own experiences, but also on the collective memories passed down through generations. This is the essence of the forest's resilience, its ability to work together, to share knowledge, and to protect the whole. The forest's memory is not confined to the trees alone. It extends to the very soil, the air, and the water. The forest ecosystem is constantly exchanging energy and information, passing knowledge from one generation to the next. As trees die, they return their nutrients to the soil, enriching it for future generations. The fallen leaves, the decaying wood, and the rotting bark all contribute to the ongoing cycle of life in the forest. These memories, stored in the very fabric of the land, nourish the next generation of trees and plants. The forest, in its infinite wisdom, ensures that no memory is truly lost, that every experience, every lesson is passed on to the next generation. The memory of the forest is also a memory of resilience. Trees are not just passive observers of the world around them, they actively engage with it, responding to changes and challenges with an incredible ability to adapt. When the forest faces a storm or a fire, it does not simply survive, it learns. The trees, with their long lives and vast networks, store the lessons of past fires, floods, and droughts, using this knowledge to strengthen their defences. A tree that has survived a fire will be better prepared for the next one, its bark thicker and more resistant to the flames. Similarly, a tree that has experienced drought will have learned how to conserve water more efficiently, ensuring that it can withstand future dry spells. The forest's memory is not just about preserving the past. It is about preparing for the future, ensuring that each generation is stronger, more resilient, and better equipped to handle the challenges that lie ahead. And yet, the memory of the forest is not something that can be fully understood by human minds. It is a silent, ongoing process that happens beneath the surface, in the roots and leaves, in the subtle release of chemicals and the slow growth of tree rings. The forest does not need to be reminded of its past because it lives it every day. The memory of the forest is not something that is stored in books or told through stories. It is carried in the very life of the trees, passed down through the ages, and shared between the branches and roots. The trees are the living keepers of the forest's history, their rings and roots the markers of time, their leaves the voices of the past. When you stand in the forest surrounded by the ancient trees, you may feel the weight of history pressing down upon you. But it is not just the weight of the past that the forest carries, it is the promise of the future, a future that is shaped by the lessons learned from the past. The trees do not forget. They remember the lessons of the seasons, the storms, the fires, and the droughts. They pass those lessons on to the next generation, ensuring that the forest will continue to thrive, grow, and evolve. The memory of the forest is not something to be feared or mourned. It is something to be celebrated, for it is this memory that keeps the forest alive, that ensures its survival, and that shapes its future. As you leave the forest, take a moment to reflect on the quiet power of its memory. The trees, in their wisdom, have seen the passing of time, and through their memory, they have shaped the world around them. The forest is not just a collection of trees, but a living archive of the land's history, a memory that is alive, dynamic, and ever-evolving. And in this memory, we are all connected, for we too are part of the forest story carried along by the winds of time. As the forest shifts with the passing of the seasons, the trees are not passive observers. They are active participants, feeling the subtle changes in the environment and responding in ways that are as ancient as the forest itself. Imagine standing in the midst of a towering grove, surrounded by trees that seem to stretch endlessly toward the sky. As the air shifts, cooling in the early morning, the trees begin to react. The leaves rustle gently and the branches sway in response to the light breeze. It may seem like a peaceful moment, but in reality, this is the beginning of a delicate, continuous conversation between the trees and the environment. The forest, in its quiet way, feels the arrival of fall, the changing rhythm of light, temperature, and moisture that marks the transition from one season to the next. The heartbeat of the trees is a rhythmic response to these changes. It is not just the leaves that respond to the light of the day or the temperature of the air. The very structure of the trees is attuned to the shifting seasons. The tree's growth, its ability to produce food through photosynthesis, and its overall health are all deeply connected to the changes in the surrounding environment. As the days shorten and the temperature drops, the trees begin to slow their processes, preparing for the colder months ahead. Their roots, hidden deep beneath the soil, are just as sensitive to the changes in temperature as their leaves. When the air turns cool and the soil becomes colder, the trees start to conserve energy, storing it for the long winter ahead. But it's not just the tree's need to survive that drives its response to the seasons. It is also a sense of adaptation to the rhythm of life that the forest follows. Just as the trees follow the natural cycle of the year, the forest too follows its own beat. The trees don't just react to the seasons on a biological level, they participate in the broader ecological rhythm that shapes the landscape. When the winds shift, when the rains come, the trees feel it deeply, and their response is an expression of the deep connection they share with the forest as a whole. It is a communication system that happens on a molecular level, deep within the cells of the trees, where the presence of sunlight, moisture, and temperature all send signals to trigger changes in growth, leaf production, and nutrient distribution. As autumn arrives and the temperature cools, the trees sense the change and their leaves begin to shift in colour. The green chlorophyll, which has been busy absorbing sunlight to create energy, begins to break down. The reds, oranges, and yellows that were always present in the leaves are now revealed, marking the end of the active growing season. This is more than just a physical change in colour. It is a sign of the trees preparing for rest, of slowing down to conserve their energy. The leaves, once vibrant with life, are preparing to fall, carrying with them the nutrients and energy that will be recycled back into the soil for the next cycle of growth. The trees, though appearing still and calm, are constantly adapting to the rhythm of the seasons. Their heartbeat, slow but steady, pulses through the forest as they ready themselves for the upcoming winter months. But this seasonal shift is not simply about survival. It is about a deeper connection to the land, one that has been woven through time. The tree's response to the changing seasons is as much a part of the forest's larger ecosystem as the animals, insects, and plants that live within it. The trees feel the cycles of life in the forest and respond to them as if they are part of a collective heartbeat. Each season brings with it its own set of changes, and the trees, in their quiet wisdom, know how to respond. When the first frost touches the leaves, the trees prepare to hibernate, slowing down their metabolic processes and entering a state of rest. The forest, in its silence, undergoes a transformation, as life is preserved, waiting for the spring to bring with it a new beginning. The deep connection that the trees have to the changing seasons goes beyond the physical adjustments they make. There is an innate rhythm, a pulse, that the trees follow, responding to the cues of the earth, sky, and air. Just as the seasons shift, so too do the trees. Their roots seek water and nutrients deep within the soil, their branches sway in response to the winds, and their leaves respond to the strength of the sun's rays. The trees, like living beings, feel the changes in the environment and participate in a dance of life that is older than words. It is in this pulse, this heartbeat, that the forest finds its balance. Each season brings with it new challenges, new growth, and new cycles of life that the trees are deeply attuned to, shaping the forest with every response. When we look closely, we can begin to see that the forest is not just a collection of trees. It is a living entity, responding to the rhythms of the earth in ways that we are only beginning to understand. The trees feel the changing air, the moisture in the soil, the winds that carry messages from one part of the forest to another. Their responses to these changes are not random. They are part of an ancient and ongoing conversation between the trees and the world they inhabit. The forest, as a living being, is constantly aware of its environment, responding to each shift, each change, with a rhythm that reflects the heartbeat of life itself. It is a quiet conversation, one that goes unnoticed by most, but it is a conversation that has shaped the landscape for millennia. As the forest pulses with the rhythm of the seasons, we begin to understand that the heartbeat of trees is more than just a reaction to changes in temperature or light. It is a deeply rooted, intrinsic part of life in the forest, an ongoing cyclical process that ensures survival, growth, and renewal. The trees are not simply passive beings that react to the seasons. They actively participate in the larger, interconnected rhythm of life within the forest. Every leaf that falls, every branch that sways in the wind, every root that reaches deeper into the earth is a part of this grand, continuous beat. Trees feel the changes in the world around them, and through their physical responses, they maintain a harmony that is essential for the forest's health. As the days grow shorter and the air grows cooler, the trees begin to prepare for the change in pace. Autumn is the time of transition, and the trees instinctively know that they must conserve their energy, storing it for the coming winter. As the leaves turn vibrant shades of red, orange, and yellow, the trees slow down their metabolic processes. The once bustling activity of photosynthesis begins to wind down. The production of chlorophyll, the green pigment that absorbs sunlight and produces food, decreases, revealing the hidden colours in the leaves that were there all along. This process is a reminder that trees, like all living things, must adapt to the natural flow of life. In the fall, they gather their strength, letting go of what is no longer needed, the leaves, to ensure they are ready to withstand the cold of winter. But the trees do not simply shut down. Instead, they enter a phase of rest and conservation. Their roots, which are constantly searching for nutrients and water, adjust to the colder conditions. In the soil, the tree's roots sense the drop in temperature and respond by slowing their growth, but they never stop working. Even in the depths of winter, they continue to take in water and nutrients, albeit at a much slower rate. The tree's energy becomes focused on survival, holding tight to the foundation that has supported them for so long. This quiet dormancy is not a sign of weakness but of strength. It is the forest's way of ensuring that when the time comes, the trees will be ready to grow again in the spring. Winter is a time of rest for the trees, but it is also a time of preparation. The heartbeat of the forest does not stop in the cold months. It simply changes tempo. Beneath the blanket of snow, the trees remain alert, feeling the shifts in the environment, responding to the delicate balance of moisture and temperature. The tree's ability to sense these changes is not limited to their immediate surroundings. Through their roots, they are linked to the soil, absorbing subtle shifts in the Earth's temperature, which helps them anticipate the coming of warmer days. This deep connection between the trees and the Earth, the sensation of changes that take place beneath the surface, ensures that the trees are never truly disconnected from the world around them, even when they appear to be dormant. The trees are not merely waiting for the cold to pass, they are preparing for the renewal that will follow. As winter slowly turns to spring, the trees begin to awaken. Their roots stir, reaching deeper into the soil, searching for the water and nutrients they need to grow. The sap begins to flow again, and buds begin to form on the branches. The change from winter to spring is not abrupt, but a gradual transition, like the slow pulse of a heartbeat picking up its pace. With the arrival of warmer temperatures, the trees are ready to respond to the abundance of sunlight, and their leaves unfurl, ready to absorb the energy of the sun once again. Through this slow, steady rhythm, the trees are connected to the larger cycle of life in the forest. As they respond to the seasons, they shape the environment around them, providing shelter, nutrients, and oxygen to the other creatures that call the forest home. The trees do not exist in isolation. They are part of a living ecosystem where every shift in the seasons, every change in temperature, has a ripple effect on all the inhabitants. The heartbeat of the trees is not just about their survival, it is about the survival of the entire forest. When the trees thrive, the forest thrives. When the trees respond to the changes in the environment, the entire ecosystem adapts. The beauty of the forest's seasonal rhythm is that it is a collective effort. Each tree, though responding to its own needs, is part of the larger conversation that takes place between all the trees. The forest does not simply react to the seasons as individuals, but as a community. The trees share their energy, their knowledge, and their strength, ensuring that the forest remains resilient no matter the challenges it faces. This sense of unity, of collective survival, is what makes the forest so unique. The trees, with their deep connection to the land and to each other, are not just responding to the seasons, they are participating in a living, breathing ecosystem that is constantly in motion. As you stand in the forest watching the leaves rustle in the wind, the branches swaying with the rhythm of the seasons, you can feel the heartbeat of the trees. It is a quiet, steady pulse, a reminder that the forest is always alive, always moving, always adapting. The trees feel the seasons as deeply as we feel the passing of time, and their responses are a testament to the resilience of life itself. The heartbeat of the trees is not just the mark of a changing season, it is the sound of life ever renewing, ever growing, and ever thriving. As we move into the final stretch of this exploration into the heartbeat of trees, we begin to truly understand the depth of their connection to the world around them. Trees do not merely respond to the seasons as passive observers, but actively participate in the living, breathing rhythm of the forest. The heartbeat of trees, slow and steady, is a reflection of the natural cycles that govern life on Earth. From the budding leaves of spring to the shedding of their golden hues in autumn, Trees are in constant communication with the environment, adjusting their growth, their energy consumption, and their very essence in response to the changing world. This continuous rhythmic pulse is what allows trees to survive through the harshest of winters and the hottest of summers. As the seasons shift, trees remain attuned to the rhythms of the earth, responding not just to the environmental changes, but also to the collective energy of the forest. The tree's ability to sense shifts in the air, temperature, and moisture levels is more than just a physical response. It is a deep-rooted awareness, an innate connection to the Earth's cycles, allowing the trees to remain in balance with the ever-changing environment. The forest too feels this heartbeat. As the trees adapt, so do the creatures that rely on them, from the insects that visit their leaves to the birds that nest in their branches. The entire ecosystem pulses in time with the tree's rhythm. The resilience of trees is not just about their ability to survive through difficult seasons, it is about their role in maintaining the balance of life. Trees, by feeling the changes of the seasons, are able to shape their environment in ways that support the survival of other species. The release of moisture into the air through transpiration helps regulate temperature and humidity in the forest, creating a microclimate that benefits not only the trees, but also the animals, plants, and fungi that thrive in the shade of the canopy. The roots too help stabilize the soil, preventing erosion and creating a strong foundation for the entire ecosystem. The heartbeat of the trees, then, is not just a personal rhythm, it is a shared pulse that sustains the entire forest community. But beyond the practical benefits, there is a poetic elegance to the way trees respond to the seasons. Their movements, subtle and slow, reflect a deep ancient wisdom. The trees do not rush or force their way through the seasons. They move with patience, knowing that growth, survival, and renewal take time. The leaves do not suddenly change colour in the fall. They gradually shift, allowing the tree to conserve its resources and prepare for the next cycle. In the spring, the buds do not burst open at once. They unfurl gently, responding to the warmth of the sun and the increase in light. This patient rhythm is a reminder that life too follows a steady pace, and that growth and change do not have to be rushed. The trees teach us the value of patience, of taking our time, and of moving in harmony with the world around us. As the seasons pass, the trees continue their dance with the earth, adapting and responding with grace and resilience. Their heartbeat may be slow, but it is steady, a constant presence in the ever-changing landscape of the forest. Each tree, though rooted in its place, is part of a larger interconnected web, one that spans across seasons, generations, and centuries. The forest does not simply exist in the present moment, it exists in time, with each tree carrying the memories and lessons of the past and the hopes for the future. The beauty of the forest's heartbeat lies in its quiet persistence. Unlike the loud, frenetic pace of human life, the trees move slowly, following the natural rhythms of life, listening to the changes in the air, the temperature, and the soil. They respond not with urgency, but with thoughtful precision, adapting to each change in the environment as it comes. This gentle, patient movement is what makes the forest so resilient. Through droughts, fires, and storms, the trees continue to grow, to change, and to thrive, not because they are in a rush to survive, but because they are in tune with the cycles of nature, with the heartbeat of the earth itself. When you stand in the forest, you may not hear the tree's heartbeat, but you can feel it in the air, in the rustling of the leaves, in the shift of the wind. The trees are alive with rhythm, and in that rhythm there is a sense of peace. The forest, in all its quiet grandeur, is a reminder that life does not need to be rushed. It moves at its own pace, responding to the changes in the environment with grace and resilience. The heartbeat of the trees is the heartbeat of the forest, and steady, patient, and ever-present. When we think of forests, we often imagine trees standing tall and independent, each one competing for sunlight and space. It's easy to view them as solitary giants, each fighting for its place in the sun. But beneath the surface, in the hidden world of roots and mycelial networks, there exists a different story, one of cooperation, mutual support, and interdependence. The trees are not competing with one another for survival, they're working together, silently and tirelessly, to ensure that the entire forest thrives. This invisible teamwork is what allows forests to flourish, to survive the harshest winters, and to recover from storms, droughts, and fires. It is a testament to the quiet strength of the forest, where each tree plays a part in supporting the greater whole. At the heart of this silent cooperation lies the mycorrhizal network, a vast web of fungi that connects the roots of trees, creating a network through which they can communicate, share resources, and even help one another in times of need. This fungal network acts as a conduit, allowing trees to send chemical signals to one another and share nutrients such as water, carbon, and minerals. When one tree is under stress, whether from a lack of water or an attack by pests, it can send out signals through the mycorrhizal network, alerting its neighbors to the threat. The surrounding trees, in turn, may increase their production of defensive chemicals or alter their behavior to help protect the weakened tree. In this way, the forest is not a collection of isolated individuals, but a unified collaborative community where each member plays a crucial role in supporting the others. But the cooperation doesn't end there. In the mycorrhizal network, trees can also share essential resources like carbon, which is produced through photosynthesis. During times of stress, when a tree is struggling to produce enough energy, it can rely on the mycorrhizal network to receive carbon from its neighbors. This sharing of resources helps ensure that even the weakest trees can survive during difficult times, and that the entire forest remains strong and healthy. The older, more established trees in the forest play a particularly important role in this cooperative effort. They often act as the central hubs of the mycorrhizal network, sharing their resources with younger, weaker trees that may not yet have the capacity to produce enough energy on their own. These older trees, with their deep roots and abundant reserves, become the silent helpers of the forest, providing the support that allows the next generation to grow. In addition to sharing resources, trees also work together to regulate the forest's environment. Through the process of transpiration, trees release water vapor into the air, creating a humid environment that benefits not only the trees but also the plants, animals, and insects that inhabit the forest. This shared effort helps regulate temperature and humidity, creating a stable microclimate that allows the forest to thrive. The trees also contribute to the forest soil health by shedding their leaves and branches, which decompose and enrich the soil with vital nutrients. The fallen leaves provide a natural mulch, helping to retain moisture and protect the roots of other plants. In this way, the trees are not just passive participants in the ecosystem. They are active contributors, constantly working to maintain the health and vitality of the entire forest. This silent cooperation among trees is a reminder that nature, in its purest form, is not about competition, but about collaboration. Trees do not see their neighbors as rivals, they see them as partners in the shared effort to sustain life in the forest. This cooperation is not limited to just the trees themselves. It extends to the entire ecosystem. The forest is a community where every member, from the smallest insect to the tallest tree, plays a part in ensuring the survival and health of the whole. The trees, through their cooperation, help create a balance that allows all life in the forest to flourish. Without this network of support, the forest would not survive. It is through the quiet, invisible work of the trees, their sharing of resources, their defense of one another, and their collective efforts to regulate the environment, that the forest remains strong, resilient, and alive. As we walk through the forest, we may not see the silent helpers at work, but their presence is felt in every breeze, in the rustling of the leaves, and in the life that surrounds us. The trees, with their deep roots and tall branches, are not just passive participants in the ecosystem. They are the caretakers of the forest, the silent helpers that ensure its survival. The next time you stand beneath the canopy of trees, take a moment to appreciate the invisible work they are doing, the quiet cooperation that sustains the forest, allowing it to thrive. In a world that often emphasizes competition, the forest offers us a different kind of wisdom, one of interdependence, mutual support, and the quiet strength of working together. As the forest continues its silent collaboration, we can see the depth of the interconnectedness that exists between the trees, the soil, and the wider ecosystem. The work that the trees do in cooperation with each other is far more profound than simply surviving or growing. It's about thriving in a balanced system that nurtures life in all its forms. The mycorrhizal networks are not just channels for sharing nutrients, they are a lifeline, sustaining the forest's very foundation. As the roots of the trees interlace beneath the soil, they create a complex network of life, a bridge between the trees that allows them to share information, resources, and even warnings. This system of interdependence ensures that no tree, however small or weak, has to face adversity alone. The trees, in their quiet wisdom, understand that to thrive they must act as a collective. When the forest experiences a drought, for example, it is not just the trees that suffer, the entire ecosystem feels the weight of the dry conditions. Yet instead of each tree struggling alone, the mycorrhizal network allows them to share moisture and nutrients, ensuring that all members of the community, from the oldest oak to the youngest sapling, can survive the harsh conditions. It's through this cooperative system that the forest is able to remain resilient. The older trees, with their deeper roots, act as anchors, drawing water from deep within the soil and sharing it with the younger trees that may not yet have the strength to access these resources. In this way, the trees function as silent guardians, ensuring that the younger generation has the support it needs to grow strong and endure. This interconnectedness extends beyond just the trees. The entire forest ecosystem, including the plants, fungi, insects, and animals that call it home, relies on the forest's cooperative system. The tree's ability to share nutrients and resources creates a fertile environment for the entire ecosystem to flourish. For example, the fallen leaves of the trees provide food for a wide array of creatures, from earthworms that aerate the soil to fungi that break down organic matter. These processes not only benefit the trees but also enrich the soil, creating a thriving, nutrient-rich environment where every organism plays a role in the overall health of the forest. The tree's cooperation with the soil and its inhabitants creates a vibrant cycle of life, where each participant, no matter how small, contributes to the success of the whole. In addition to sharing resources, trees also help each other in times of crisis. When one tree faces a threat, be it from pests, disease, or extreme weather, the surrounding trees respond by adjusting their behavior. Some trees may release chemicals to ward off pests or slow down the spread of disease. Others may increase their production of protective compounds, such as tannins, which act as a natural deterrent to herbivores. The tree's ability to sense these threats and respond as a community helps ensure the overall health of the forest. In this way, the forest is not a collection of isolated individuals, but a living, breathing entity that works together to protect itself. The cooperative behavior of the trees is a reminder that survival is not just about individual strength, but about collective resilience. This unity among trees is also reflected in their ability to share the benefits of sunlight. While trees may appear to be competing for the sun's rays, they are actually collaborating in ways that help them all thrive. As the forest canopy grows, the trees adjust their growth patterns to make the most of the available sunlight. Younger trees may grow more quickly to reach the light, while older trees may adjust their canopy to allow more light to reach the forest floor, where seedlings and smaller plants can grow. The way the trees position themselves in relation to one another allows the forest to function as a self-sustaining system, where every tree, no matter its size, plays a vital role in the success of the whole. This collaborative use of sunlight ensures that the forest continues to thrive and that new life has the opportunity to grow. The silent helpers in the forest, the trees, demonstrate a profound understanding of the importance of cooperation. The forest is not merely a group of individual trees, but a dynamic and interconnected system that relies on the collective effort of all its members. Through the mycorrhizal networks, the exchange of resources, and the shared defense against threats, the trees work together in ways that we often fail to notice. They're not just surviving, but thriving together, creating a balance that supports the life of the entire ecosystem. In their quiet cooperation, the trees remind us of the power of working together for the greater good, a lesson that can resonate far beyond the forest floor. As we come to the final part of this story, we begin to realize that the cooperation of trees is a delicate yet powerful force that shapes the entire forest ecosystem. This silent, unseen teamwork allows the forest to thrive in ways that go far beyond mere survival. It is a testament to the deep interdependence of all living things. The trees, through their quiet cooperation, do more than just help each other. They help create an environment in which life in all its forms can flourish. The forest is a place of interconnected relationships, where every tree, every plant, every animal, and every microorganism plays a role in sustaining the whole. The trees, as silent helpers, understand that their survival depends not only on their individual strength, but also on the well-being of the community around them. This understanding is reflected in the way they share resources, defend against common threats, and regulate their environment. By working together, the trees help to create a stable, thriving ecosystem. The mycorrhizal networks allow them to share nutrients and water, while their collective response to environmental stress helps ensure the survival of the entire forest. The tree's ability to adapt to changing conditions, whether it's drought, a pest invasion, or a storm, is strengthened by their collaboration with one another. The forest, as a result, becomes more resilient to the challenges it faces, a testament to the strength of cooperation. Even in their quiet moments of rest, such as during the winter months, the trees continue to work together. While some trees may appear dormant, their roots remain active beneath the surface, continuing their exchange of resources and support. This collaboration doesn't end with the arrival of winter. It is a year-round effort, a continuous cycle of give and take. As the trees shed their leaves and prepare for the cold months, they know that this period of rest is as important as the periods of growth and expansion. In their shared wisdom, the trees understand that survival requires patience, and that even in times of dormancy, cooperation continues to sustain them. In the spring, as the weather warms and the sunlight returns, the forest awakens. New leaves unfurl, new growth begins, and the entire ecosystem comes to life again. This period of renewal is not just about individual trees coming back to life. It's about the forest as a whole, re-establishing its balance. The trees, as silent helpers, continue to support each other, sharing resources to ensure that all can grow. The forest is a place where every leaf, every branch, and every root plays a part in the greater good, contributing to a living, breathing organism that adapts to its environment and continues to thrive. What is perhaps most remarkable about the silent helpers of the forest is their ability to act selflessly for the greater good. The trees, by sharing resources and supporting one another, create an environment where life can thrive, not just for themselves, but for the entire ecosystem. This lesson of cooperation is one that we can carry with us beyond the forest. In a world that often values individual achievement, the trees teach us the power of working together, of sharing resources, and of caring for the well-being of others. The forest's cooperative spirit offers us a glimpse into a world where success is not measured by individual accomplishment, but by the strength and health of the community. As we stand in the forest surrounded by the silent helpers, we realize that the trees have been teaching us all along. They have shown us that true strength lies not in standing alone, but in working together, supporting one another, and building a system where everyone thrives. The forest is a testament to the power of cooperation, a place where silent helpers ensure that life continues, generation after generation. And though we may not hear their quiet teamwork, We can see the results in the lush green canopy, the rich soil, and the vibrant life that fills the forest. The trees, as silent helpers, remind us that in the end, we are all part of a greater whole, connected by the invisible threads of cooperation that sustain us all. Deep in the heart of the forest, beneath the towering trunks of ancient trees and the lush green canopy, lies the soil, the lifeblood of the forest. Without the rich, nutrient-filled earth, the trees would not stand, and the vibrant ecosystem that surrounds them would collapse. Yet the soil is fragile, constantly in danger of erosion, drought, and the harsh forces of nature. In this delicate balance, the trees act as guardians of the soil, using their roots to anchor the earth, prevent erosion, and create a stable foundation for the entire ecosystem. They are the protectors of the forest's most vital resource, silently and tirelessly working to ensure the soil remains healthy, fertile, and resilient. When you stand among the trees, it's easiest to take the soil beneath your feet for granted. We see the towering trunks, the leaves fluttering in the wind, and the wildlife that calls the forest home, but we rarely consider the role that the earth plays in sustaining this life. The roots of the trees, however, know better. They reach deep into the ground, seeking out nutrients, water, and minerals, creating an intricate web that binds the soil together. Through this connection, the trees help prevent the soil from washing away, ensuring that the forest remains anchored to the land. In times of heavy rainfall, the roots of the trees act as natural barriers, absorbing and holding the water in the soil, preventing it from running off and causing erosion. The deeper the roots, the more effectively they stabilize the earth, allowing the forest to thrive without the risk of losing its foundation. The trees do not act alone in their protection of the soil. The entire forest ecosystem plays a part. The fallen leaves, branches, and dead wood that accumulate on the forest floor act as a protective blanket for the soil. This layer of organic material helps to retain moisture, regulate temperature, and provide nutrients as it decomposes. The fungi, plants, and microorganisms that live in the soil also contribute to its health, breaking down organic matter and making it available for the trees and other plants to absorb. The trees, through their roots and fallen leaves, create a protective cover for the soil, ensuring that it remains fertile and full of life. The soil, in turn, provides the trees with the nourishment they need to grow and thrive. This mutually beneficial relationship between the trees and the soil is the foundation of the forest's success. Beyond preventing erosion, trees also act as natural water managers, regulating the flow of water through the forest. The roots of the trees absorb water from the soil and release it back into the air through the process of transpiration. This movement of water helps to maintain a balanced ecosystem, preventing the soil from becoming too dry or too saturated. The canopy of leaves above the trees also plays a role in this water cycle, intercepting rainfall and slowing the rate at which water reaches the ground. This allows the soil to absorb the water more slowly, preventing flooding and ensuring that the forest does not lose its precious moisture too quickly. The trees, as guardians of the soil, help to maintain the delicate balance of water in the ecosystem, ensuring that the land remains fertile and sustainable for generations to come. The forest's ability to prevent erosion and manage water is not just important for the trees themselves. It also benefits the many other creatures that call the forest home. The stability of the soil supports a wide range of plants, from the smallest mosses to the tallest grasses, which in turn provide food and shelter for insects, birds, and mammals. The soil is a foundation for the entire web of life in the forest, and the trees, through their roots and canopies, play a crucial role in maintaining that foundation. When the trees are healthy, the soil is healthy, and when the soil is healthy, the entire ecosystem thrives. The trees are not just passive participants in the forest. They are active protectors of the land, ensuring that the environment remains balanced, stable, and capable of sustaining life. The trees also help to combat climate change by acting as carbon sinks. As they grow, the trees absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and store it in their wood, roots, and leaves. This process of carbon sequestration helps to mitigate the effects of global warming by reducing the amount of carbon in the atmosphere. The tree's ability to store carbon not only benefits the environment but also helps to protect the soil. Healthy trees, with their deep roots and robust growth, contribute to a stronger, more stable soil structure, one that is better able to resist erosion and hold moisture. By acting as carbon sinks, the trees not only help to combat climate change, but also ensure the long-term health and stability of the forest soil. In this quiet, unseen role, the trees stand as the guardians of the soil, protecting the earth beneath their feet and ensuring that the forest remains vibrant, thriving, and full of life. They do not do this work for recognition or reward. Instead, they continue their quiet service to the land, providing stability, nourishment, and protection to the very earth that sustains them. In their deep-rooted wisdom, the trees understand that their survival depends on the health of the soil, and they work tirelessly to ensure that the forest remains connected to the land. The next time you stand in the shadow of a tree, take a moment to appreciate the silent work it does, not only to grow and survive, but to protect the foundation of life itself, the soil beneath our feet. As we continue to delve into the role of trees as guardians of the soil, we begin to realize that the forest itself is a living entity, constantly working to protect and sustain the delicate balance of its environment. Trees are not only defenders of the soil,